What's up, big dogs? Back at you with another profile. This time we got my quarterback one of the class, Tua Tagavailoa. La, 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 la. So, you know, there's a lot of hate on him, especially recently. I think there's a lot of buzz about how like NFL guys are saying like, "Hey, you shouldn't draft Tua in the top 10. Like, he might fall out of the first round." I think that's all fucking nonsense and smoke and mirrors because what this guy did in college was prolific. And I don't think it's an exaggeration when I say this, but in terms of his production and what he did on the field, he's probably the best we've seen since Andrew Luck. I'm not saying he's as good as Andrew Luck because Andrew Luck is a generational talent, but I think the gap between them two and the other prospects is that wide. What do you think about that?
Yeah, watching this guy play and just seeing the numbers he put up as young as he did, like even his freshman year, I think he had like 11 touchdowns in 8 games, which doesn't sound great. Being like 19 years old in the SEC, not even like supposed to be starting out there and just dominating. And then his second year, what do you have, like 39 touchdowns?
Mm-hmm.
He's incredible. It's funny watching him play because you don't see many left-handed quarterbacks, and every ball just looks like it's like lofting. It just takes forever,
Yeah.
but it just lands there. And every in-depth stat, I'm sure Mike has some. I'll throw a few right now, but every in-depth stat he just dominated in. I know completion percentage isn't like the most accurate thing, but he was seventh in the nation this year, number
Mm-hmm.
one in touchdown percentage at 13.1%. And obviously with the receivers he had, it was a little bit easier on him. But the same thing with Joe Burrow, right? You can't discount it. You can't discount a player for being good with his situation around him. Like if he was bad with his situation around him, sure, you could be like, oh, he was propped up a little bit by it, but he was utterly dominant. And those other guys may have helped him a little bit, but still, you can't take that away. He was fourth on target percentage with 82.1% and fourth in yards per attempt at 11.1. So he's not just dumping it off to the backfield. He's not just letting Henry Ruggs run everything to the house. He's throwing the ball downfield. He is accurate. He's sort of mobile. I'm kind of concerned about what's going to happen at the next level now that he's suffered a few lower body injuries. If he wants to
Mm-hmm.
really run a lot or kind of be like a Russell Wilson these past few years where he gets like 250, 300 yards. But I just think all in all, and Mike will take it away after this, but like I think all in all, he's just a completely stud, all around, very, very solid quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. I think, if he didn't have that hip injury, I don't even think this would be that close of a discussion because as great as Joe Burrow is, right? Like his season, like I said, it was the best I've ever seen. But Tua has been doing that for 2 years. And so it's like, when you break it down, right? You have two guys, both excellent, both have the same peak, but one guy's been doing it for longer. It's a little bit different. And, I actually learned about Tua watching this show called Elite 11. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but basically
At the high school
they
camp.
yeah, they basically recruit. It's hosted by Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl MVP, Hall of Fame quarterback. If you guys don't know about him, look him up. But yeah, so he brings like all of the top recruits, high school recruits, into this camp, and they basically compete against each other. So guys like Luck, Rogers, like all the like Goff, all these top guys that are going in college and getting drafted have been through that program. And Tua actually won that year, and I believe, yeah, he beat out. I forgot who he beat out, but basically he won that year. That's when I started paying attention. And then obviously as a freshman, he came in the middle of the game on the biggest stage possible when his team was down and basically brought them back. And I think that was a moment where everyone's like, holy shit, like this kid is here to stay because he dropped that fucking dime to, was it Devonta Smith? Pretty sure it was
Dude,
Devonta
Devonta Smith has been there for like 40 years. He's like football's Perry Ellis.
Yeah, so he dropped that dime in overtime to Devonta Smith after taking 2 sacks. Okay, after taking 2 sacks, this is like make it or break it. Drops a dime, and then the legend was born. And then Alabama said, fuck you, Jalen Hurts, you're riding the bench to us the future. So it's just he's come through an incredible journey, and he makes really good decisions. I think, and some people knock him for this. I don't really get it. When I watch him, he rarely makes decisions that turn the ball over, except for on fumbling. He does have some fumbling issues, but he has a 7.9-to-1 career TD to interception ratio, which is obviously awesome. His career accuracy is about 69%, fucking legendary. And his yards per attempt is at 10.9. So that's just above Joe Burrow's historic season. So a lot of people talk about Tua as like a dump off passer that never pushes downfield. And I just don't think that's very accurate or true.
That's stupid. Mike, can you guess what my favorite trait about Tua is? This is real film grindery, so let's see if you can hit it nail
Real
on the head.
film grindery.
Yeah, a little bit.
Is it his mental processing?
Kind of. It's his pre-snap reads. And
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
not like a QB scout or anything. I don't even know if this is the right take on it, but when you watch this guy play, he'll look around, obviously see what defense they're running. He'll take the snap and he'll be looking to his right for a second, maybe two. he'll flip his hips and just fire because he knows his guys are going to be open, whether it's Devonta Smith, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy. There's so many clips of him just not even looking at the receiver he's about to throw to, flipping his hips and knowing his guy's going to be open based on what he saw pre-snap, that he's just dominant in that part of the field. Every single time he did that, it was just like wide open to Devonta Smith, 40 yards downfield, plants a seed in a bucket, and it's just 40 yards to the house. So that's something I love about him. Also, his footwork, the way he progresses through his reads, like you were touching on, he just gets through his reads so quickly. The way he just flips his hips from left, middle, right, it's a beauty to watch. It's like poetry in motion. I love to watch the guy play, and sure, he had awesome receivers. We already touched on this, but you can't be as good as you are without being good, right? You can't put out the numbers that you put up without actually being good at football, and that's why I love Tua Tagavailoa.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's got great receivers, right? Jerry Jeudy, awesome. Henry Ruggs, probably still really good player as well. But like, let me ask you this: like, what do you think
still
is
a really good player as well?
what do you think is more likely, right? That all of a sudden the best program in the nation that's been dominating for decades, that's had the pick of the litter of every single top recruit you could want, wide receiver, running back, doesn't matter, right? Is it more likely that all four of these generational talents landed in the same 2 years, or is it possible that someone like Tua, who Alabama's never had, came and lifted all the wide receivers up, right? So I think it's probably a mix of both, right? You know, they're good wide receivers, and Tua's a very good talent, but at the end of the day, like, I don't think we can write off Tua for that. And I'll just read you one thing. So I listened to an interview. I think it was on the Fantasy Pros podcast, and they interviewed Terrell Owens, who's obviously a Hall of Fame, probably top 3 wide receiver all time. And this is a quote he said. I ran pretty much every route I could run. I didn't hold anything back. I only corrected him on one route. And once I corrected him, I didn't see a ball hit the ground. And we were out there for like an hour and a half. When I left that campus, I was like, this dude is the real deal. So, look, I'm not a QB evaluator, so I'm going to take the word of a Hall of Fame wide receiver who's caught balls from the best of them. And I think this kind of speaks to what you said, right? Like, in order to couple with that pre-snap read, you got to know how to throw each of the routes, when to throw it, timing, where to place the ball. So I think the fact that he knows that means that he's kind of got that cerebral edge coming into the league.
Yeah, he just puts a good touch on the ball, and I know that's also kind of film grindery, but when people are saying, like, oh, Jacob Eason has a great arm, sure, he has a great arm, but a guy's running a 5-yard slant and he throws it 100 miles an hour at his head. What does that really do for you? Like, Tua can just place it over, a linebacker's shoulder right before the safety, drop it in a bucket, and his receiver can create after the catch. If you're throwing rifles, or if you're rifling at them and they have to dive and catch the ball and then they go down in college, you can't get back up and run, what is that going to do for you? Tua really has everything in his bag. He can hit all quadrants of the field. He's sort of mobile. I do have that concern, like I said before, but I think he could be very Russell Wilson-esque. Obviously, that's very, very high praise, but I think he's just got the arm talent, and if he needs to, he can scramble around and extend plays, and he was very dominant doing that at the college level, and I think that'll translate to the NFL. I just hope he lands on a team with a very good offensive line. And, Mike, if he lands on the Chargers, after what they did to their offensive line on the right side of the field, bringing in Bulaga and Trey Turner, I believe his name is, I don't know. With the weapons that he has, he's probably going to move ahead of Burrow for me, and I might be considering taking him at the 101, even if I may need like an RB2 and JT or DeAndre Swift would help my team a little bit. I just think that situation is too good to pass up on.
I totally agree. If he goes to the Chargers, I'm definitely going to take him much earlier. I actually had the same comp for him. I had Wilson as well. Not as mobile, obviously, but I just meant comping him in terms of like a passer. So he's kind of in that Wilson Breeze type mold where they basically pick you apart and understand the game really well. So look, either way, if you end up with Tua, you end up with Burrow, it's going to be a beautiful thing no matter what. We're in the startup league right now with Filet the Public, and I took the 104 rookie, and I'm hoping that one of these guys falls to me. So it'll be a beautiful thing.
Yep.
That's all we got for you. Next up, we're going to dive into a couple more of the skill positions. But that kind of wraps up the Elite Tier 1 quarterbacks.